does it mean if a system goes down than before? Because now, instead of 1, you have 10 down. The same thing on storage. How can we make sure that the data that you have now from 10 applications and which are sent to the disk-based storage, how can you make sure that this is backed up in time? Maybe 1 application was no problem, 5 is no problem. With 10 or more than that, it can be a problem because it takes so long. So all of that is quite complicated. And we see also a movement towards internal cloud and external cloud services, but I'm not going into that anymore. Not today. What we see, and that's why NetApp is one of the companies really very successful in the storage space. Actually, we are currently since many years, NetApp is the fastest growing storage company in networked open storage. From when I started 7 years ago, we were number 4 or 5 worldwide. Now we are number 2. Growth over the last 3 years in NetApp was about 65%. The next company in storage, called EMC, was growing about over 3 years about 17 or 18%. So we have a big gap. And there are some reasons why we are growing that fast. One of them is unified storage. Unified storage means we do not care if you are running NAS for file sharing, CIFS or NFS file sharing protocols, or a SAN, which typically people use for Oracle, for Exchange, for SAP databases. On NetApp, you can run everything on the same platform without any performance penalty. We have end-to-end data protection. We have things like application integration, and I'll very soon explain what that means. We have things like multi-tenancy. I'll explain what that means. And we are very efficient in utilizing our storage. So one of the values of NetApp for SAP infrastructure is, first of all, this extreme flexibility. If you have a unified storage platform, that does not mean that you have, let's say, big volumes for file shares and you don't need them anymore. You can use these disks, reuse them instantly. It takes you minutes or seconds to use them for SAN, which is having now big SAP databases. Or if you need data which you have to store for compliance, archiving in a kind of warm mode, like write once, read many. We can dedicate a volume on our system and make sure that it cannot be erased anymore. So you can write once, everybody can write as well, you can read as often as you want, but you cannot destroy this volume. You cannot destroy the files. The same storage platform, no need for any other system. And there is not a lot of people in the industry who can do that. So there's one company who has a EMC, they have Centera, which is very different from anything else on earth. So totally incompatible. On NetApp, you can access those files just like you access them on any NAS system. And at the same time on the same system. So this is, of course, giving people a lot of possibilities to save money. Now, the first end-to-end secure multi-tenancy, that's what we brought out. When I started 7 years ago or so, we had a product called Multistore. We never sold it. We did not know where to sell it. We didn't have the applications, no need for that. And this is the core of what we call multi-tenancy. So if you are now in cloud-based systems where people are offering services to a number of users, can be internal or external, and they must make sure that they can shield user from user from user. And it's not possible that user A can look into what user B is doing, or vice versa. This is called multi-tenancy, and we have made sure that this works. So we had a product which we didn't know where to sell. Now this is the perfect product in all of these virtualized environments. So the isolation and the security for these multi-tenant SAP systems, it's built in. And the efficiency is one thing where NetApp stands out very much. So compared to all the other guys, we can achieve great utilization and save a lot of space, which means money. As I just said, unified virtualized storage, the most flexible architecture that is on the planet currently, most efficient. We have things like if you are going for a virtualization project with Hyper-V or VMware or whatever, and the customer tells us, well, one of our competitors offered them 20 terabyte for that project. And that's what you need. We guarantee that on NetApp you need maximum 50% of that. At maximum 10, if you have 20 from the others. Because if not, we would give you the disk for free. We know it works. Because we can do a lot of things in this storage efficiency area called, for example, let's go into the next one, deduplication. We can deduplicate block-wise, any data that you have on your system, and it's not only on a backup system, on a remote system. We deduplicate on our running production system. No one else can do that. If you ask how and why we can do that, then I'm just watching 15 minutes. Wow, that's so much time. All the time on the earth. If you ask us how we can do that, actually, we are very lucky. The founders of NetApp, they did a few things when they created the operating system, the file system. At that time, they did not know what they were doing. Well, they knew what they were doing. They were kind of geniuses and created the file system in a way that it's made for deduplication. If you're a technical guy, you know, if we come to technical people understanding storage and they look into our file systems, they say, well, that's perfect for deduplication. And we say, yes. 20 years ago when NetApp was founded, the word deduplication did not exist. It's not in a dictionary. But the system is made for it. So you have to be lucky. The same mechanism runs for snapshot copies. So if you make a snapshot of this, like a flashlight of this group of people, and then some people move and you make another one, there's another big difference because not very many people have moved. So we can be very efficient in doing that. We can be very fast. A snapshot, we can make snapshots of 10 or 15 terabyte databases in 1.5 seconds. It depends on how long you need to type in. Snapshot this volume or this data set, hit return, done. And the snapshot means now from this snapshot, you can make copies for backup. So you send them to a backup device and the system still goes on. And you can make a lot of snapshots, like every 5 minutes. Because if something goes wrong, you could and you know, well, okay, you're going on 5 minute snapshot. We have customers who do that, like 5 and 10 minutes. In highly transactional databases, running Oracle and SAP, typically these are things where airline reservation systems, car manufacturing, where people do not want to lose any time if something happens, or as little as possible. So you make your snapshot every 5 minutes. If something happens, you can switch back to the old let's say, snapshot with a thing called snap restore. It's a 1.5 second operation again. Then you roll forward the transaction log, which you have to have in a database, but for 5 minutes, a transaction log is typically not a big thing. So maybe it takes 1 or 2 minutes. It means you can be back in 5 minutes. If you compare that to anybody else in storage space, it is different. And then we have a number of other things that don't go into everything that is here. Maybe just mention the one on the right corner down called Flex Clone. Virtual clones. This is something where we use the snapshot and make it kind of writable, although a snapshot is never overwritable. So it's always read-only, but we give a clone of a database to everybody. We have about 30 people here. So we have a 10 terabyte database. And we want to give it to everyone here in order you can work with it. It will take us 30 times 2 seconds, or 1 minute approximately. And everybody has his own 10 terabyte database. But it's not 30 times 10. It's not that we have created now 300 terabytes. This would take us half a week or something like that. So because it takes a lot of time to copy 10 terabyte 30 times. The total of all of that would be 10,01 or 10,001 or something like this. Nearly no additional space. In nearly no time. This is what no one else can do. This is why SAP has gone from another storage vendor, I was working for them earlier, to NetApp. This is why Oracle tells when they introduce this command, FlexClone, on their development platforms. And you know, Oracle bought another company and they sell the other storage, but internally in Oracle's data center in Austin and in development in Oracle University, what they're using is NetApp. This thing helped them to to squeeze the development times for the projects statistically by about 20%. One command alone, one piece of software helps you to reduce project times by 20%. That's quite something. I do not go into protection in detail. This is another 2 hours of talking. But be assured that, of course, we can do very efficient data protection. That's why we can do backups in seconds, needing just less than 5% of additional disk space. We can automate backups to primary and secondary sites, and so on and so on. Of course, that helps to accelerate processes in SAP a lot. And we can do things like service automation. So we have, for the major software vendors, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, VMware, what have you, we have created things called, programs called Snap Manager for SAP, Snap Manager for Exchange. This piece of software enables a SAP user to very easily do all these jobs of making a backup, making a restore, cloning a database, without being a storage specialist. So he or she can simply, in a very easy to use GUI, even I as a salesperson can do that, they can very easily make all these operations which have to go down to storage. And this integration is not easy because of course it uses all the stuff like deduplication, snapshot, flex clone. So I know when our guys were integrating Hyper-V from Microsoft with NetApp, they had 10 engineers for at least 2 years in Microsoft. So 20 man-years go into that operation. But then, for the end user, it's perfect. This is something people like our space guys can demonstrate very easily. And it's something which helps, again, to speed up things and of course, what you also get is you minimize the risk, because if you as an SAP user say, well, okay, we need to have a backup now, or we need to make a copy of this database, and you call to the people responsible for storage, and they will tell you, okay, but you need to bring the database in hot standby, flush buffers, do all the stuff, call me back when it's done. Okay, you do all of that, you call back and say, can you make a backup now? They do it. They call you back and say, okay, we did it. And then you can restart the database. All of that is done in this Snap Manager. Perfect integration of storage with our features. Now looking at the application view. Application view, of course, everybody knows in SAP we have a very complex and costly management of your SAP landscape. You need to simplify test and roll out. Data growth, how to cope with data growing. In the other presentation I said we have a report from IDC and Gartner. They asked several thousand CIOs, IT managers worldwide last year, and they told them we see data growing year over year by 50 or more than 50% year over year. The budget growth is 3.5 year over year for the next 5 years. That's what about 3,000 or 4,000, I think 3,500 people said. So statistically, I think we're close to the truth. So that means something. Yeah, how to cope with that data growth and all of that. So, yeah, the requirements, again, high SAP business process availability is important, optimizing test cycles, and so on and so on. So what can we do here again? Again, now we are using the same features that we had before, accelerating SAP rollouts by high-speed system provisioning a system for creating new volumes, new LUNs is done again in 1.5 seconds. Shrinking volumes, enlarging volumes. I know that some of our competitors, they can enlarge a volume. If you want to shrink it, it takes hours. In NetApp, you say flex vol, name of this volume, minus 50 gigabyte, done. So this is how fast it goes. Minimizing the risk through having really great recovery options. And of course, all of that results in lower TCO, because the total cost of ownership, we see a lot of, that's other reports coming out, we see people talking about things like 50% cost reduction, total cost of ownership over a number of years, including all the management of storage and so on, compared to other storage vendors. And for example, if you look into things like optimizing and accelerating SAP test cycles, that's what I said before, that's what SAP does, that what Oracle does, using snapshots. If you need something, you go back immediately. within seconds, so you can do much more testing than others can do. Yeah? So upgrades. I know still when I was a young boy, young guy in IT, and I was doing software development, upgrading systems, everybody hates it, and everybody has fears because a lot of things can go wrong and not a lot of things will go right. So there's always some fear with upgrading to new systems. NetApp is very easy. You have your old system, you make your snapshot, everything is ready. If you move to the new system, if it doesn't work, you say click, snap restore to the old system, and you run with the old system. You modify the system, you do the new upgrade, and you click. This is how easy it goes. So minimizing the risk of losing the go live windows. And you can go live earlier. Rapid repair systems with NetApp, same thing. It's always the same technology that we're using and that you're using in an SAP environment. Rapid system copy creation, that's what I mentioned earlier. Again, this Snap Manager for SAP, very fast, space efficient system copies. Fully automated clone operations and large space savings. And then the thing I mentioned earlier I think in the beginning, archiving. So even on the same system where you run your file servers, file services for Windows or Unix or Linux, what have you, where you run your SAP and Oracle and Exchange, whatever databases, or SQL, you can run archiving. So again, a lot of great companies from FileNet, or products from FileNet to OpenText to Documentum are integrating with NetApp. So it's, again, same storage that you're using, and you don't need to go for a new or specialized one. So people who are working in the storage space in a company don't need to learn a new system, and you need to train new people. All of that's possible. That's the only product side that I have, because we just have one product family. Small, medium, large. That's the 2,000, 3,000, 6,000 systems, or series. And within this series, again, small, medium, large typically, going up to very large systems, thousands of terabytes and thousands of drives. And you start on the left-hand side, you start in the range of 15,000 euros, even less than that. You go up to 100,000 and millions. So, but you have the possibility to start with small systems, doing all of the stuff that you can do on a big system. And I think everybody is clear what it means when you have to upgrade. Typically, you add disk shelves. And you see even the small systems, this one is no longer available anyhow. I never update these slides because they keep changing all the time. But this is the message. If you have a small system, you add a disk shelf, and now you have 30, 40, 50 terabytes, and then you add servers and applications, and people see, well, it's getting slower, because at some time a system will get slower. So then you have a very easy option. You take a new processor, a faster processor, attach it to the disks, and you will run much faster. That's it. No need to transport data from the first system to the second. No need to throw out the old systems. You can still use them for backup, for anything else. This is unique. Nobody else has that. Going to the last 3 slides. Just a few references, and this is the one that I mentioned. That is a message coming from SAP. The message here is at SAP, cost efficiency drives our profitability. But we are in a very competitive environment that makes speed and reliability crucial to our success. With NetApp, we get all 3. Cost efficiency, speed, and reliability. That's what SAP says. And you see the numbers. 4 years savings estimate of 5 to 10 million euros compared to what they had before. 36% lower per terabyte cost, and so on and so on. Productivity 83% higher going with our storage. 600 or more, probably it's 1 petabyte can be managed by one person now. So it's a lot that you can do. And this, I have tons of slides showing different references from small to medium to large. And this you will see everywhere. Porsche holding in Austria, driving business with high availability, flexible NetApp solutions. It's always the same messages, multi-protocol support enabling flexible connection to key applications, because we don't need to have another storage. yeah, you manage the entire storage with 2 people, and they have also petabytes there. Data recovery very fast. And the final one, this is, for example, coming from one of our largest customers worldwide, Deutsche Telekom T-Systems. When they went for cloud services, providing really double the administration productivity, lowering the cost for people who are working with the cloud offering by 30%, that's their offer, and so on. So this is what you will see all over. Hvala lepa.